President Donald Trump and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman discussed military deals, stronger investment, and security cooperation during their first ever chat together at the White House yesterday. The Crown Prince says Saudi Arabia is proud to be America's oldest ally in the Middle East, and he says the two nations will still work together to create lasting stability in the region.
Tremendous investments made in our country, and that means jobs for our workers, jobs for our people. Also defense. We're talking about defense, and we're working very hard with Saudi Arabia, and they're also footing a big part of the bill for defense.
As you know, Mr. President, from day one, you've reached this office. We've planned to tackle $200 billion of opportunity in the next 4 years, but it end up with $400 billion of opportunities.
Still with Emily Rose, our Middle East correspondent. Emily, this really is a schmooze fest for the Crown Prince. He's trying to win over the president, but really also the American people through his public statements, through his interviews with American networks. Is this public relations blitz working? Do we know?
Well, we know that the Saudi prince is soliciting a $35 billion American investment in an overhaul of Saudi infrastructure. This is a very ambitious 2030 plan that MBS has to wean Saudi Arabia off of its reliance on oil. But we also know that the United States is pressuring Saudi Arabia to end a lot of its influence in the ongoing civil war in Yemen. And we know that Congress is pressuring Saudi Arabia to allow humanitarian aid and access to the looming humanitarian crisis that's happening in Yemen.
And one other big issue, of course, between the two men is the situation with Iran, the nuclear deal, the Iran reach. What do they talk about there?
Well, this is where Qatar really came into their discussions, because we know that the two did discuss the ongoing break between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. There's a diplomatic row that's happening between those two countries. And we know that the United States was very adamant on trying to get them to mend ties. And why? Because of the rising influence of Iran. We know that there's going to be this kind of front against the growing Shiite crescent that Iran is spreading its influence. And the United States wants Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the United States to be allied and an alliance and an axis to sort of combat that influence.
All right, Emily, thanks so much for that analysis. The Crown Prince, MBS, as he's popularly known, he'll stay in America on a tour of the country for the next 10 days. All right, thank you so much, Emily.